So, kick it off here. I just want to thank everyone for joining us here on, well, I'm not going to call it the Rock for Him podcast. This is the My Armor debut
Woo!
podcast. And as you can see, we have Matt Sassano and we have Mom joining us.
Yeah, man, I was gonna tell everybody that she's my new band member and just freak them all out. Be like, what?
Yeah.
Be like, dude, she plays a mean bass guitar.
Yes.
On the radio.
Yeah, she plays saxophone and piano.
I do that.
But yeah, she's not a band member.
No.
She's my mom.
I'm the mom.
So
I'm the momager.
yeah.
The momager. Nice. So tell us a little bit about yourself, Mom. Like, Matt's talked about you quite a bit. He's been on the show, what, 4 or 5 times now, Matt?
Yeah, we're going 4 or 5, probably even more than that, maybe. But every time I got a new release, the one stop I got to do is Rock for Him. So it's always it's only getting more uphill from there, man.
Oh, he's talked about me, huh?
He has. It's all good stuff. I promise. But feel free to share embarrassing stories of Matt. Like, I'm encouraging
all
you.
night for that.
Listen, I've got all night. I'll get comfy. I got my coffee here. I'm ready to go.
We can talk. Oh, trust me. I was on speed dial with the school most of the time.
Oh, no.
Matthew was, he was Matt all the time. But
go ahead,
good kid. About me, well, gosh, I don't know. There's I was born in Colorado, and then from there, went to Bible college and in Missouri and met his dad, and then we moved to New York, upstate New York then, and that's when Matthew was born on this day yesterday. It's actually exactly the same as it was the year he was born. So it was a Tuesday that year too. So
rainy and dreary and crazy.
I didn't feel good. Same thing. And we're going through some stuff. And Maddie was born as a preemie. And I was 25 years old. So to me, I thought that was a normal birth. So everybody else started saying that wasn't so normal. But Maddie came a little early, and so he was only 4 pounds when he was born. They told me just before I was going to be knocked out that he would die. And I thought, I went through all of this for that. And when I woke up, he actually was so loud. He was the loudest preemie in the whole ward that they put him in a closet.
I was training for vocal, like early, and they were like, dude, we got to tuck this guy away. He's so loud. And I guess I just scared the entire ward. But they projected that, I wouldn't be able to talk. I wouldn't be able to walk. I wouldn't be able to do all these things. And when I came out, it was just like the complete, definitely had some struggles, but definitely the complete opposite of couldn't scream. So
yeah, no, he screamed really so well. He kept all the preemies nervous. So we had to put him in a room. And he from there, we really didn't know that Matt had cerebral palsy. Again, nobody was really telling us about what was going on. And didn't really know that until he was probably, about 18 months old. And he had to have an eye surgery at 10 months old. So we went through all of those conquests and found out that he had cerebral palsy, but, we really didn't know what to do about it either. Because he was pretty amble, he had 2 speeds. He'd stand up, run, crash, one crash. So he had a lot of great scars on his face. So
yeah, I remember those.
Yeah. He was an ER kid. So, growing up with Matthew, and that's literally what I did. I grew up with Matt. Every day was a new challenge. And so he decided early in life that instead of people laughing at him, he would do things to make them laugh at him.
Yeah, laugh with me and not at me was my kind of thing. So in high school, she always got the principal calls, everything from, superhero day. I jumped in the pool. Somebody back then I smoked really heavy cigarettes in high school. And so somebody was like, dude, I'll give you a whole pack of cigarettes if you jump in the pool and shout like Matt Man. And I had this cape on and I, jumped in the pool, or crowd surfing during a pep assembly and getting kicked out of the pep assembly. Or, it was always, Mom, I'm back home again. We're going to probably either get detention or suspension or one of the ensigns. And I put her through all that. A lot of ensigns. Lots of ensigns.
That day he played Batman or Matt Man. He came to me in the morning. He goes, Mom, can I can I, those rose looking leotards you have? Can I borrow those for school? And I'm like, my leotards? And he's like, yeah, I got a great idea for those. I'm like, well, Matt, those are kind of like my special leotards. They're hard to find. And he's like, no, I got a great idea for him. So I guess he wore them that day over his pants. And when he jumped into the pool, I have Rick, was his name? Counselor Rick. He called and he goes, Matt's standing here with these leotards like hanging off of it. I'm like, he wore my leotards in the pool. He ruined my best leotards.
Oh man.
Yeah, but he got suspended for that.
So those were just some of the like weird moments from like high school and everything. But like really the core of like the whole My Armour song is just that person that's been there through thick and thin, It was one of those things where it's like high school pranks. Not only that, but just like, we were raised in church. I've talked time and time again through like the dynamics of our family and some of the things that we had gone through. And so, like the idea and the intention behind My Armour is really a dedication to her, but it's to anybody who's ever had like somebody really stand in their corner. Like I remember so many times through school, like teachers would have my mom confronted in like a classroom and be like, he's failing through class. He's not normal. He doesn't really belong. And she was always the person that kind of developed that backbone to tell him to, what to do with that.
I knew my first time with Matt. So, we were in a small community, and back then dyeing your hair was like, it was like a thing, you know what I'm saying? And Matthew just always had to press the button. And so I'm sitting in church, and he's late and I'm looking, and he was coming at that time with his girlfriend. They were going to be coming into church. And all of a sudden I just hear this in church, it's like a slow,
like a gasp,
those are the prayer warriors, praying again. And Matthew comes in and he looks like Papa Smurf. His hair was so blue, like he looked like a blueberry. And I turned around and went, oh my God, we're gonna die after church. We're gonna die. And so that was the first, the blue hair. Then then he had to have a tattoo. Now, the hair wasn't bad. Now I gotta go and do the tattoo. So this was the first tattoo. That one put me through months of yelling. Okay. Then it was piercings. Now, again, you got to remember, this is, back then, this is things. So he decides, this is the first time I honestly felt like such an extremely bad mother. Okay. And they went in this eyebrow right here.
Oh yeah.
And they pulled his eyebrow out with these palms and then they jammed this needle up in his eye. And I'm thinking, no numbing. Like I was like, ow. I thought my ears getting pierced was bad. And I got, happy for that. But Manly's like trying to be cool about it. And there was this guy, this big motorcycle guy. He had a tattoo on his head of an Indian chief, it was all bald. Big guy, big muscular thing sitting there. And we're both like watching this going, ooh, that was kind of painful. Well, she had the needle in his eye and she's like twisting it and trying to get the eyebrow ring on it. And it slipped out of the hole. And so she's kept digging his head.
I'm surprised I still have like an eye intact. She just kept jamming that thing in. I'm like, this is my first. And I just kept going back for him. I don't know why I got so many piercings and tattoos after that. But I was just like.
In his lip where he would spray milk out at you. Like he got this one in there. So his joke in class was to spray milk out.
Oh, yeah. So she's been with me through all the different kind of like phases and weird stuff. And to be honest, like we always talk about how I opened for Petra. And, one of the big things with my mom is like, I took this very conservative church woman to being kind of supportive in my rock journey. But the first concert she ever went, I think it was on a date with Petra. And she walked out thinking it was of the devil.
I was like, this is so demonic. I got to get out of here. Jesus is going to come and I'm going to be sitting in this moment.
Little did she know that she would be
sitting there watching my son singing with them. Yeah.
So it's just been kind of one of those, full circle moments with all of it. And that's kind of what My Armour is really about. Like when it came to school dysfunction, when it came to dysfunction at home, whether it be like, something where it's like, you opened for this band that I initially hated, but I support you. And now I see the light of rock and roll. Like that's kind of what the whole song is all about.
Yeah. Yeah. We went through a lot, especially school. School was tough as Matt. In his graduation year, to events of he decided to just go and get his GED because we were upstate New York. So we thought, yeah, that'd be great. We'll just go get the GED, get him out of school. This will be great. Well, no, that didn't go so well because we didn't know at the time he had dyscalculia too, which means you're never going to pass math. So he goes through the whole thing, keeps failing. And I'm like, what in the world? So I call. I waited for, I made 203 phone calls to get him. They put him finally, that was when no student was left behind. No kid, he was being left behind. So then they put him in college. So Matthew actually ended up being the first, one of 4 high school students that graduated in college.
Yeah, it was just kind of like during that time in my life, it just kind of felt that's kind of where a lot of the isolation and stuff kicked in because, you know, I kept failing through the GED and I didn't really know why. Like, it was just kind of like, I just cannot pass this math course. But every single time I would try the GED course, like literally I would fail 6 times. And it wasn't like you could just take the test a week later. Each time you failed the test was like a 6-month block in order to take it again and fail again. So like there's just years of my life being flushed down the toilet. I'm literally like in my 20s being like, I don't know like why I can't pass. All my friends in the local area are like looking down on me because I'm like in my early 20s, haven't even graduated high school. And they're like, what is going on with you, man? He's in
college, but still in high school.
You know, still kind of battling this whole high school meets college type of dynamic. And I'm like in my 20s and like my world's passing me by. I'm taking all these odd jobs that are like, you know, not very, you know, like jobs that you would think of when you're thinking about like, you know, what's the word, like success or like, you know what I mean? And so you've got these things where it's just like, that starts to affect other areas of your life where you're like, I can't graduate. Like my entire like job history is awful. Like any girl that I look at, it's like, I'm not dating that loser. He can't drive. He can't graduate high school. He can't do anything. And so like, you know, it was just like some of the most turbulent, like kind of crazy
story.
Okay.
He talked about
She's oh my God.
Yeah. So one night Mac does take a girl on a date. Okay. And so he goes, Mom, can you drive us? I said, okay, this is going to be a little awkward, but okay. So we get in the car and, I won't say her name, but anyway, we get in the car and Matt, you know, he's in the backseat trying to be Mr. Cool and I'm being chauffeur.
I've already like pretty much not been Mr. Cool. She picked us up. I'm in my like, I'm like 19, 20.
Maybe,
so
maybe a little younger.
I don't even know, maybe a little.
It was last week. Come on. It was last week.
And so he has a white shirt on like he has right now. And he's in the back and he's talking to her and everything. Well, for whatever reason, I don't know if nerves hit him or something, he gets this gusher of a nosebleed. Like, I mean, like, this wouldn't happen on Dumb and Dumber. It was so bad. And so I hear him going, and I'm thinking, okay, I don't want to turn around and look because he's like on a date and I'm not supposed to be intruding, but like he's must need to blow his nose, you know? So I slipped some tissues behind the seat. So I'm trying to tap him on the leg, like, here's some tissues. So he goes to blow his nose and sees he's got this really bad nose and it's dark back there. So the girl doesn't see the gushing nosebleed yet. So he decides to drill these tissues up his nose. Okay. He drills these tissues up his nose. And when the light comes on, when she goes to open up the door, he looks at it and he goes, sexy, huh?
Yeah. Yeah. And even to characterize that date more, just to say, like, even that was just the part my mom saw. It was funny because, like, she was kind of obsessed with this guy named Steve, and I was getting tired of the name Steve, to be honest with you. The whole date, like, was just set up to fail from the beginning. And we get out, I'm watching the movie, like, we're watching movies, then we decide to go for a walk around town, and she's just like, I'm like, oh, would you like some Winter Fresh? I bought her some Winter Fresh gum. And she's like, well, you know what? Steve loves Winter Fresh. Everything that I said was like to reinforce this Steve guy. Then I get in the car and then she's the person that's, yeah, you know, and then she tells you the nosebleed story. The next day in school, needless to say, we never had a second date. She rushed for Steve's arms faster than I could say. And I'm like, man. And so, yeah, like, it was just like the worst. Like, that was just like a peak, like a little snapshot into what was my life in my 20s, man.
Yeah.
awkward, like going nowhere kind of guy, man.
It was, yeah. He waited for 4 years to go on a date with her.
My teen years into my 20s, I should say.
And the funny thing is, she became a nurse.
Yeah. So.
She had to go on a date. She needed to be a paramedic.
I just want to say real quick, we do have some viewers on here. If anyone wants to send a question in our chat for Matt or Mom, I will read it to them and we'll get it answered. And we have Spencer, I don't want to mess up your name, but Spencer Mouselink.
Hey, Spencer, what's up?
He says, Matt, he is learning a lot of stuff about you tonight.
Yeah, I hate the name Steve, even though it's my stepdad's name.
And we also have Anthony the LeBlanc. He wants to know, he says, hello, guys, and how much has he missed? You haven't missed much, just Mom sharing stories of Matt's massive nosebleed during a date. And like it wasn't just like a trickle, it was gushing. Like
Hemorrhage.
Oh man.
Reached that level.
Yeah, so
oh my gosh.
I mean it's just been crazy, man. Like that's kind of just like paints a picture of my teen years into my 20s, and like I said, like that's kind of the weight that the song My Armour holds. I know we're telling a lot of comical stories, but like, you know, we've definitely been through like a lot with just church life and, you know, trying to figure out like my path in life, because I was born with so many complications and stuff. And, you know, through it all, she's kind of stuck with me and been the armor that kind of characterizes that song. And so, yeah, man, we're really excited about it. And
it's going to be awesome. Another story.
Oh, no.
Oh yes. Yes.
Jason. So Matthew, for whatever reason, they had this therapist that came in because he was really undiagnosed. We really didn't know what was, everything was like the cerebral palsy didn't make sense why Matthew always got lost wherever he was at. And so one time this therapist was named Mark and
Kevin Mark.
And Matthew he just dreaded it. The guy was nice. He was a very nice guy, but he would always embarrass Matthew trying to help him, you know, not.
Yeah, like literally, like, you know, I was kind of one of those self-aware people. So I always would try to, I didn't think my disabilities like stuck out too much. And so like I had a certain self-awareness of just like wanting to fit in and doing all these things. And like Kevin Mark would come along unannounced. He was like the second coming of Christ. You could never tell when this guy was going to come to class and just be like, hey man. So then he would drag me out of class and he would make me like his lab rat basically. And so like, I didn't have the backbone to like really say no to much of the stuff that he was proposing. Like it would be as bad as like, I remember in 6th, 7th grade, he like pasted these like purple dots all around the school and followed me with like a camcorder, like literally trying to like figure out where I got lost and why. Yeah, and like, I'm still trying to maintain coolness. So I'm trying to ditch this guy while the rest of like the 6th, 7th grade class.
The kids are asking, why do all the dots come to your desk? And Matt goes, I have no clue.
Yeah, he's like, why is there like a string of purple dots just going to your desk? And I'm sitting there trying to tear them down. I'm trying to like lose this physical therapist, but he would literally like, and I feel like he just like literally would go home and be like, how do I embarrass a 5th grader? You know, like the song or the show, Are You Smarter Than a 5th Grader? He probably could have had his own, like, how do I embarrass a 5th grader? Because he would literally like have me on camera. He would like literally be like, you know, even up until 11th grade, he'd be like, you know, setting up like a relay race in the hallway while everybody else is in class. And he's like, all right, I want you to go and sprint for this baton. And I'm sitting there going like, I remember one time just storming out of class.
The bell rang and all the kids came out and Matthew just kept running. He just ran right home.
And
he
so
just
if you
left
could,
the school.
Yeah, so if you could like imagine like this kid who is me is like, I'm still got that like social awareness, but I don't have the backbone to be like, this is not me. I am not doing this. And so he would just put me through the most tormenting, like embarrassing little things in school. And I remember this one time after he had asked me to do something, I just stormed out of the school. I was like, this is just not happening. And they ended up like apologizing, but like half my high school was over by then because that was like 11th grade. I don't know why I never like was just like, this is where I draw the line. But it was that way. And he would like literally haunt me through my elementary years to my high school years. And like I said, when I was feeling embarrassed and down and just feeling like crap, man, my mom would be the one that kind of came to my defense at a lot of that.
Yeah, they were going to suspend him for running out of the school, but I said no. That was embarrassing.
Yeah,
I'm not going to do that.
You know,
but they didn't know he had dyscalculia at that point. He was. I think Kevin was trying to figure out really what was wrong. And we didn't know what really Matthew had until he was in almost the third year of college.
Right, wow. To its full extent.
Yeah, what dyscalculia was.
So
what is it? Because I'm gonna be honest, I have no idea. Like I tried looking it up, and I don't even know how to spell it. So I was like, I can't even find it.
Well, it's actually the opposite of dyslexia. So dyscalculia is more of a mathematics, and it's not anything to do with cerebral palsy. It's a whole different problem. But it somehow in his perceptions in his mind, place and spacement was just, he just didn't never know where he was.
Right, like the rules of the road, or if you were to tell me to like get to a certain place, like reading a map. Like I remember certain jobs that I'd be on, even just like topping off the whole thing of, you know, just kind of feeling weird in the job situation where, okay, like if you tell, like they had like this grid. I worked at Walmart at one point and they were like, okay, you know, this is stocked in this area. It's going to be on this map. And so like, I literally would not being able to read a map would like walk around trying to figure out like where everything is stocked. And then like a lot of times wherever I was, whether in job or in school, I would get lost because my brain just kind of wipes out directions. And so like my teachers often thought, or my employers often thought that I was just kind of like shirking the job, like just being like, nah, I don't, you know, and they didn't know that there was like an underlying issue.
I didn't understand it. I was like, I know this has nothing to do with, you know, cerebral palsy, but this is a really crazy story how we found out Maddie had it. So there was a teacher that called, like, that's normal. I was getting teachers calling me all the time. And her name was Carol. She was the head of the mathematics department at Alfred State College. And she says, hey, can I talk to you about Matt? And I'm like, oh my God, here we go again. Now it's starting in college. No, please don't call me. Please don't call me. I'm like, oh dear, what did he do? And she goes, no, it's not what he did. Something I want to talk to you about Matt. And I'm like, oh God, it's math too, because he can't seem to pass it. And he had to pass at least one class in math in college. And I kept telling him, how's he going to pass that? He can't pass regular math. Well, anyway, we got with Mrs. Smith and she said, hey, I have this really weird theory that I started when I did my, like her dissertation for her what was it, for her master's and doctorate, I'm sorry. And she says, I don't know if you've ever heard of dyscalculia. I'm like, no, I've never heard of dyscalculia. She goes, well, I have a theory that Matthew has that. And she says, can I have him go in and do statistics instead of regular math? And I'm like, well, you know what? A failure is a failure. I mean, F is an F. And I said, so he's never passed a math class in his life. So yeah, you can try it. I mean, I don't know what that's going to prove. Well, her theory was that people with dyscalculia, when there's no formulas at all, which Matt can't farm, that's the number one thing, formula. Like you say, okay, go down the hall, turn left, turn right, and then you'll see the bedroom. Well, he'll get left, maybe he might get right, but he might not get left, right.
If it's like an immediate like proximity, I can like find my way, you know, but like, you know, if it's like prolonged directions by any means, like I can get super lost.
He'd get lost.
You know?
When he was little, like he got lost in the house. So she did that and he took statistics and he got a B+ on it in the class with really not much help. And he passed the math. And so she says, you need to have him go to a neuropsychologist and check this out. So we did go and sure enough, he had dyscalculia. And so it opened up the whole world of Matt, you know, like understanding why all that confusion
it kind of applies to a lot of the things that you would even associate with like adulthood, because like managing money is like a tough thing. You know, on jobs they could never put me on like a cash register because I'd come up short and they'd be like, he's a thief. Like, you know, like I could never like do it.
Everybody else walked out.
And so it just kind of like affects everything, driving and direction. And like, so when you think about like when you go through certain jobs and you're kind of relegated to it, can't put me on a cash register, can't do this, can't do that, then you're only kind of left with like, can you stock? And it's like, well, if I can find the aisle, you know. And so like it was just a crazy like existence, and I'm just so fortunate that I kind of found music to help me with, you know, because that's something that just kind of always came natural to me in a way.
It really did. And that's why his stepdad takes him, you know, drives him and gets him all set up so that he can get to those moments. But when he's on the stage, he's not lost at all.
Right.
Yeah.
I haven't had the honor of seeing him live yet, but one of these days I will.
Oh, dude, we're excited, man.
You got to.
I will.
He does a great job.
So, Matt, it kind of sounds like you have two of your Armour, because you got your stepdad and you got your mom. It sounds like you're covered from both sides. They both have your back. That's awesome.
Like, yeah, man, it's been awesome. And, she's always kind of been in my corner. And then, my stepdad was kind of the first to really, he kind of talked me into the whole band thing. We were, my parents had just gotten kind of a divorce and everything. And I was working through some like really difficult emotions. And we had kind of just taken a road trip because I wanted to get my mind free of all the stuff going on back home. And during that time, my stepdad was like, you got a lot to say. Like him and like his kids and my kids were all kind of songwriters. And he's like, why don't you start a band and like I'll manage and, do all this stuff. And then he's like, well, what is something that you want to sound like? So we stopped off at like some sort of a Sam Goodies at the time or one of those CD shops. And I got the CD. It was a red CD and I forget exactly which one it was. And I was just like, here, take a listen to this. And then we ended up listening to Red the whole road trip. And then on our way back, we ended up like drafting band members and all this kind of stuff. And it's been years and line upon line, precept upon precept. But that was really what started this whole band concept or idea, was the fact that, parents going through a big divorce. My stepdad was kind of trying to help clear my mind. Took me on a road trip. He's like, you should start this band. And then all this stuff just kind of like birthed from it,
Yeah, there was their decision to do that. And I kept telling Matt, maybe you might want to be a counselor. And he's like, no, I don't want to be a counselor. I want to be a musician. I'm like, you never sang. At that point, Matt never had sang once in front of me. I didn't even know he could sing. Never once.
Yeah, it really wasn't even in my initial plan to sing or anything like that. My initial plan was to write songs because I've always been good with the writing, and then play bass and then draft a singer. But, as time would always kind of go on, we would be introducing these new singers, Jimmy and Johnny and Steve, and not Steve, forget Steve. Anyway, but we had all these singers and they would drop out like a week afterwards. Yeah. And I'd be like, oh man, this is just, what am I going to do? And then basically I was in a church service where this lady told me, like, I think I've told this maybe on Rock for Him once or twice, but she knew nothing really about me. And she, in a nutshell, was basically called me forward and she's like, God wants to use you powerfully in music. And I was all cool with that. I was like, this will be an awesome thing. I want to play bass, man. And then she said, but he wants you to sing. And then that was when like pale. I was like, oh my God, are you serious right now?
Did you say sing?
I couldn't I literally the idea of that just completely terrified me to death. And so, yeah, man, that's kind of how this whole journey started. And I didn't start out like a good singer. I don't even class myself as like, I can get by. I'm not like an American Idol person. But back then I was a scrawny, scared, like just
major smoker.
Smoking like a chain smoker from all the stress that I was under. And I didn't know that God could take like that person and morph them into somebody who would later, have number ones or open for prominent bands or be on Rock for Him. It's been cool.
If it hadn't been for Travis Wyrick that did Matthew's recording down here, he's the one that got Matt to finally see that smoking was hurting where God was
I was in the booth just kind of panting. And if anybody knows anything about Travis Wyrick, he's the most well-natured guy. Love the guy to death. But to be in a studio booth with him, like that's exactly the boot camp that I needed, because he would literally be like, get the cheerleader out of the booth right now. We need, and then he'd be like, he'd be like that boot camp guy. And he'd be like, you hear Michael Barnes from Red? Is he singing like this? And then like, you'd get like, flustered. But then he was like, all right, what I noticed is that you're smoking way too heavy and you can't sing. I'm not going to work with you if you don't stop smoking. And I thought literally he was like saying like, at some point, like stop smoking, consider. And I was like, so I went to light up a cigarette like at one point. And he was like, what did I just tell you? I was like, oh, I thought you meant like eventually. He's like, no, now. He's like, at least switch to the vape, like, or whatever. Try to get off of this. And so that began the journey. And then like all the vocal cords and all that stuff came into play. And, you know, he had taught me so many of the fundamentals of like actually singing with like emotion and getting all that down, and, you know, hopefully sounding a fraction as good as some of the people that I look up to in this scene. So,
I mean, I honestly, coming from a guy that, you know, I mean, I play music on the radio. I can't sing. I can't play an instrument to save my life. I think your music is fantastic. Like, I think you can sing, you know, about as well as anyone else in the industry right now. I mean, really,
I appreciate that, man, because like
you have a pretty good voice. Like, I don't know. There's something special about when you can tell when you're like really getting into a song. Like you can listen to some singers and you can tell they're just phoning it in.
Right.
Honestly.
Right.
But with you, you can feel like the emotion in your song. You can feel that you believe what you're singing. Like, let's take, hold on here. I'm pulling up your music. Dear God, for instance, you can straight up hear the emotion in that song.
Yep.
Like, you can hear you were writing that from a real place in your life, and your vocals in it were amazing. Like, absolutely amazing. Like, that whole In Defiance CD is just fantastic.
Oh, thank you, man.
You know, I told him when he first was told he needed to sing, you know, and he would get so frustrated with everybody that would sing the song. He's like, they're not singing it. I said, well, Matt, nobody's ever going to sing it how you feel it. They've never gone through those things. So you got to sing it from where you're writing it from, you know, and that's why you feel that.
Yeah, because we would just bring in a litany of just different singers, and they would they would sing it a certain way, and I'd go, that's nah. And it was just like this audition process that would ultimately lead nowhere, because we'd get somebody we were kind of happy with, and then they would drop out. Yeah. And then, you know, then a guitarist drops out because he lost, you know, he felt the singer back away. So he's like, well, if this is going nowhere, I'm out too. And then that is how the evolution of Matt Sassano began. I had like a lot of band names and a lot of different like phases of this whole thing. And then like over time, God has just brought me to like, if you want this done, you're going to have to do it yourself. And I am building it like slowly. Like I said, we've got some people lined up for some future shows, guitars and drums and everything. But literally like the biggest step out of my comfort zone was going on tour with 7 Day Slumber with just tracks. And like, God was just like, you have to prove to yourself that you can do this without anybody besides yourself.
Depending on anybody.
And then the rest will come. You know what I mean? But that was a lesson that was hard learned.
Yeah. He was real nervous.
Yeah, definitely.
Very nervous.
it's nerve-wracking getting up on stage with the band sometimes, you know, but like just stripping everything away and then like renaming the project like Matt Sassano, not because I'm like egotistical, but just because like literally, you know, all these little iterations of the band just led to like, okay, it's going to break up and everybody's going to ask where this person is. And I noticed like, okay, well, like nobody ever asks about, you know, Post Malone. Like, no, they just know Post Malone, which, hey man, if I get band members that ultimately like serve the band and like become more integrated, that's awesome. But like God and just my own like intuition after a while was just like, name it you.
Yeah. God called him. And so I told him just, he'll bring whatever you need, but he called you to do it. So you're the one that has to do it.
Right.
Absolutely. So let's talk a little bit here about the song, because I know we have a tribute video to play here pretty quick, but I want to talk about the song. You mentioned a little bit about what it was about, but can you really tell the people watching and the people that will be listening a little bit about it? Just tell them about the song and what it means to you.
Yeah, man. I think a lot of times like people go and they like write anthems for people that they cared about like long after they're gone, or you know, you hear musicians like this song is for this person, but like they've been passed for a long time. In this particular instance, like I noticed in my songwriting, I've talked a lot about the dark stuff that's in my life and other people's lives, like, you know, abuse, this, that, and the other. And it just felt like the next step to write a song about the other side of that thing. Not that the writing about darkness will ever stop with me. Like that's, that's kind of a component of rock. And this song still has bite, but it's basically about that person who's just stuck by your side through thick and thin. When you think about the darkest times of your life and what you've gone through, whether it be abuse or an addiction or, you name it, who's that one person, like when the rest of the world bailed, that like kind of just stuck. Settled. Yeah, when the smoke settled, who was there in your corner? And as I'm going through life, like, I haven't had a lot of friends that have stuck with me through thick and thin. We've had a lot of betrayals in the church world. I was a pastor's son for many years, and a lot of the people that, I grew up with and were like, dude, we're going to be, imagine us when we're 50 or whatever, they're no longer around, they don't check on me. They don't care about me. They don't think about me when I'm gone or whatever. And you just kind of like build this whole different life. And like the one consistent person in my life is my mom. Like, it was my birthday yesterday, and my dad, he texted me to give me like, a small gift, but like, and I thought that was really nice, but like, he literally had to like say, is this still your number? And so like, that was his opening text. And so I think about all these things where it's like, the one person that's really stood consistent for real has been my mom, and it always will. And so it's not only just a song about her, but hopefully somebody out there hears the song and they have time to reflect on that one person who's maybe stood in their corner and maybe if they're still out there, they're still alive, talk to them, or even if they've passed on or whatever, just like, take a moment to reflect on what they meant and like how far you've come because of their influence.
Yeah.
So I'm assuming, Mom, that you've heard the song. What did you think? What did you think about it?
Well, I was actually stunned, because they played a trick on me. And you'll hear that at the end of the song, him and Josiah. I didn't really know what the song was about. He just said, I'm doing this thing about my armor. I didn't really understand, he had a bunch of things he was doing in the studio with Josiah. So I didn't really know that was going to be something towards me. And so at the end of the song, you'll hear I guess they cahooted.
Yeah, so there was like a little in studio moment where I'm like, okay, what would make this song really cool is if we just like recorded a conversation or like a little snippet of a conversation without her knowing about it.
Yeah.
And then like put it on the end of the track. And so I'm calling her up. I'm like, hey, Mom, trying to get her to say something really sentimental or whatever. And we ended up with this like little 5-second thing, but she didn't know she was part of the song. It was just me and Josiah like in studio, and Josiah had bugged the room with my cell phone. I'm like, let's call her right now. And just kind of like spur of the moment, like see what she said, and basically in the track, you'll hear her say something along the lines of like, I'm hearing what you guys are doing and it's sounding really good. And then Josiah says, yeah, we're trying. And I was like, oh yeah, we're trying her. And then I say like, love you, Mama. And she says, I love you too, Maddie. Yeah. And so basically you get this like pure, I didn't want to like script it or make it like one of those things, but it was just kind of like a little couple second snippet of just like a real-time conveation at the end of the track.
I always tell my kids, I think this comes out of that. I lost my dad when I was very young. He was killed in a plane crash. And I wasn't even quite 4 yet. And so I never really got to say I love you or even really remember it. But I know my mom and him had a real bad fight before he went. She wanted to go with him. And when they called her to tell him that, he had crashed and was probably dead, my mom always regretted that, the things that she had said, before he left. And so I always tell my kids, they'll know before they go on a vacation or anything, we always say how much we love each other. So when Matt says, I'm going to do this, Mom, before you die, which I hope that's not soon. But anyway, I just wanted you to know how I feel about you, before. So it runs in part of my idea, to just say the things you mean. And even though they might feel kind of creepy, awkward, a little, off, people sometimes don't like to tell those things, they feel them, but they don't know how to say them. But you don't ever want that opportunity to pass, because like my dad, one day he was there and the next day he was there. And, so I'm really proud of this song, because I'm hoping that message will get to other people, that tomorrow's not really guaranteed very much, or at least the people you love, it's not guaranteed that they'll be there tomorrow. And so if you have that chance to tell somebody you love them, or they were there for you, or how much they mean to you, or how they helped you, man, that's so important, because it gives them encouragement too.
Hmm. Love it. Love it. I'll tell you what, let's play the song like we have for those that are watching right now, live on Facebook. We have a tribute video that Matt had put together. I believe it was Adam Castro that put it together for you.
Me and Faith actually did the
Yeah.
tribute video.
Oh,
Adam Castro
okay.
did the lyric video. So me and
Yep.
Faith were responsible for the tribute.
Yep.
Shout out to Adam for the lyric video and all the like this the team that's kind of put this together. We've kind of whittled it down and yeah, it's been awesome.
Yeah, the tribute's awesome.
Funny enough, Adam did the beginning of our intro. Like,
Oh, he did?
Like that whole progression, the video that I play at the beginning of every episode.
Yeah,
Oh yeah.
Adam
very
did that
talented.
for us.
Yeah, man, he's such a nice guy, dude. I've met him on various like shows and stuff out in California, and I saw the work that he put in for his own band, and I was like, their lyric videos are pretty cool.
Yeah, that's how he
And
knew.
at the time, we were kind of having a massive shakeup in our team, so I'm like, I'm gonna ask him, and he was gracious enough to do it. He even did a little April Fool's version of the lyric video.
That was so funny.
That was like, I don't mean to get off topic, but it was just the most like crazy thing, and I was like, how do I tell him?
He had emojis in it. Like
It was just like, and I was like, I knew he did good work. Point aside, like he was like, April Fools, here's the real lyric video.
He goes, how am I supposed to tell him this is terrible? I'm like,
yeah,
well, be nice, but just tell him that doesn't work for us.
but I mean, yeah, man, we're excited for this tribute video, and this was actually really submitted by like fans or listeners that we have that have people in their corner. So in the thing, you'll see like, this video with people's pictures and then like a message to that person.
Yeah.
Cool. And I want to apologize because I was going to send in like all three of us. It was going to be me, Jeremy, and Riker. We're all going to send in pictures of our armor, but the video was done and we didn't get a chance because we were.
Oh, I'm so sorry, man. Yeah,
but that's okay. That was on us. We got crazy busy, but at the end I'll show you a picture of my armor.
Oh,
awesome,
at the end of the video.
Awesome.
So I'm gonna. That was fantastic. Like, I'm not gonna lie, it got me emotional watching it and seeing, that ending tribute to your mom. Like,
oh, thank you, bro. Yeah, it's kind of an emotional type of song, man. Usually we kind of dive more into the dark aspects, but this was just that time to where it was like, man, we just need to kind of pivot for a minute, and I'm glad we did that, man, because that's kind of the thing that I'm hoping people, when we're no longer doing this or my mom's no longer here, man, just something to look back on.
Yep. Yes, me in my pajamas there. I was trying to show Matt some really cool moves.
Yeah. Oh, man. Yeah. Like, she helps me rehearse for the band stuff. And as you can see, I haven't really implemented many of the moves, but she tried. She was like, this is what you should do. And I'm like, no, I'm like laughing. I'm like, this is going online. So,
oh, man.
She tries, man. She really does try. I'll be my own armor when it comes to the performance stuff.
You take care of that.
Oh,
thank you guys so much for having us on. And
well, I want to see his.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, you want to see my armor? All right, I'm gonna close my camera here so you can see my armor. Hang on.
Let me see.
All right, I just got to.
So cool. How they.
Oh, that's awesome, man.
That is my beautiful wife, Jennifer.
Like,
she has got my back through thick and thin. She has loved me through my mistakes, through my pain, the person that I am. She makes me want to be a better person.
That's
How long have y'all been married for and stuff, man?
We got married in 2006, so it's been almost 20 years.
Almost 20 years. Man.
Well, heck, man, thank you so much for sharing that with us. And, happy birthday to her.
Yes,
we have the
Jennifer.
same birthday.
That same birthday. See, perfection runs the line.
That's right.
That's right. Yeah, she supports me in all the things that I do.
That's awesome.
She allows me every Monday to come sit in the man cave and talk to guys like you, Matt, for half hour, 45 minutes, an hour. And
it's really you find that it's a real big, huge, like, blessing, I guess, to find somebody that like, you know, can really get somebody, especially if you're in the creative like mode. Because I've had a lot of people like, you do what, music, and they don't, you know, they don't get it, or like podcasting or whatever it is that we do in this creative thing. It's hard to find those people that really just like back us 100%. You know, they don't like it. We're kind of special people cut from a different cloth, and so to find somebody that kind of pairs that well is a tough thing, but it's a worthwhile thing.
Yeah, for sure. So I just want to thank you guys for coming on and chatting with us. And Matt, thank you for sharing that video and your song with us tonight. Like, I'm telling you, that song is fantastic. Well done on it.
Thank you. Awesome.
And like Josiah, like if you see this, like, man, you did amazing on the song. Like you can hear like little Josiah-esque tweaks on it.
Yep. That's exactly. And we're like he's kind of my armor in the recording booth, man. He holds me down, man. And you know, it's awesome because as much as I've worked with other producers, he's a guy that like just really captures the vision and works well together with me. I know that sounds like an artist cliche, but like legitimately,
it's like pinky in the brain.
You know, I'll throw out an idea, he'll throw out an idea. We're upping each other, you know, in the studio, being competitive, but like still just super. I don't know. It's just like a really relaxed. Yeah. He gets it, man. And so shout out to Josiah too.
Yeah,
for sure. Speaking of my armor, I just got a text from her saying, "Hey, dinner's done. Are you almost ready?"
You got it.
Yeah, man. Thank you so much for that. I really appreciate that. I'm looking forward to this and all the shows that we've got coming up. So I can't thank you guys enough. Rock for Him is a huge staple in this scene. I don't know what I would be doing if I had a release and I didn't stop by Rock for Him. So thank you guys so much, man.
Matt, you're always welcome on the show. You're awesome. We absolutely love you. We love your music. Mom, we love you too. We love what you've done for Matt and the fact that you are his armor. So thank you for that. Thank you for making him the person that he is. I just want you to remember. I can't even speak. I'm tired. If you're going to rock for him. Have a good night.
God bless.
All right. Bless you guys.
If you like what you saw today, hit the subscribe and like button down below, and don't forget to share it to all your friends. Also, leave us a comment down below. If you're gonna rock for him.